there. Good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. Pleasure to have you back here on the channel with us to talk a wee bit more about all things Celtic and more importantly, to talk about yesterday's Glasgow derby where from what appeared to be defeat, a second half performance, a rousing second half, a fighting second half performance dragged us right back in when we thought we were out. It finishes 2 each. Of course, it puts us very much in a strong position with that game in hand coming up against Aberdeen during the week. And as I say, sliding doors moment. We'll talk about it. Maybe we could have won it. Probably should have won it when you actually look at the second half. But yes, once again, in the crazy world of Celtic, Stephen, we find ourselves being unable to predict what's going to happen from one half to the other, 1 minute to the next, one day to the next, and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, I am sure that you will be happy because it didn't look that way at halftime. I think that's fair to say.
I'm glad that work commitments stopped us coming on yesterday, Steve-O, because I don't think my voice could have handled a 60 or a 90-minute cast on that, both from a negative and a positive spin, because when we were bad, we were bad. But when we were good, we were very, very good.
It's crazy, isn't it? And that's the thing. It sums up this season, to be honest with you. It's reactionary. It's all the emotions wrapped into one. You think you're down and out, and then, as I said, the next minute you're sitting and going, we're actually right back in it. Yep. But as it stays there on the tagline, Celtic's second half show had real bottle about it when, funnily enough, the other side of Glasgow, it appeared that their bottle crashed and it pushes right back in the box seat. Yes, we know that there's a good bit of a lead for Hearts, but with the game in hand and then the games that we're still to play, it really is all to fight for. And we'll talk about that. We'll go through it. We'll go through some of the performances from the individual players, the ramifications of that will we look towards Wednesday, of course, some of the key instances. And as always, get yourself involved. There, we know we're on at a bit of a peculiar time, this sort of 6:30. So if you're watching live, let us know your thoughts as and when. If you're on catch up, thanks for checking us out. Leave your comments below, as we always do. We try to get back and respond to you and share our thoughts on your thoughts as well. Most importantly, if you like what we do around here, don't need to tell you by now, hit the subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. Get a wee thumbs up if you like it. And of course, down below is all the other destinations that you can connect with us. So anyway, Stevie boy, let's get down to business, as we said. And as always with these things, it makes sense to just start with the jump off point being, of course, the lineup. Now, we sat here and we've spoken about it before. We sort of surmised as to what would happen after we looked at the Stuttgart game. We thought there was plenty of food for thought there and the big decisions had to be made. Now, of course, there it is. And when it came out, were you personally surprised with anything that was on show there? Obviously, with Araujo, we were expecting him to come straight back in, give us a lot of fight. We get Sinisalo. That was probably the biggest talking point, and we found out that Kasper Schmeichel was no well, so maybe that took away that decision for it. Really, for me, the one big stick out there was the introduction of Dane Murray. But aside from that, how did you feel when that came out? And did you think, with hindsight, it was the right lineup to begin with after we've seen how the first panned out?
Yeah, the Sinisalo, we kind of talked on the cast we did after the Stuttgart game, where we had felt that Rangers, having done their homework, if Kasper played, knowing the injury that he's carrying at the moment, could have really made sure he was under pressure, lots of shots down to his left hand side. We kind of covered that on our last cast. So when Sinisalo got the nod, at that point, as I say, I was out and about, so I didn't actually see who was on the subs bench, but I was quite positive the fact that Sinisalo had a good game against Stuttgart, so I didn't really have any concerns about him fitting in for the game at all. The other one that we did discuss, was it going to be Murray or was it going to be Arthur that was going to start at the back alongside Scales, or was he going to do something different in terms of flipping the the formation about a wee bit. So Murray starts. There was some pros to that as well as some cons, which manifested during the game. But yeah, I think for me that was about as strong a lineup as you were going to get for until we actually get into the game. But yeah, before kickoff, I would have said I was reasonably happy with the choices made there.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we look at it, there was a couple of things that you could obviously canvass for. We were looking at this sort of winger positions. It was going to be a case of, are we going to play Maeda maybe through the middle? Or are we going to use him as a winger? And then, of course, we were talking the idea of moving up Araujo and using him as a winger, and similarly with Sinsalo. Not Sinsalo, am I talking about? Sarachi in front of Kieran Tierney. Now, obviously, these guys make an appearance and end up, and it's good enough. But a lot of people now, as you will do, there's a wee bit of hindsight after it. And I personally think that our setup for the game wasn't ideal. It was wrong. I think you definitely noticed that we needed a wee bit more control in the midfield. I thought we looked a wee bit sort of definitely swamped out there. Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's just at the club. We know that he's maybe not exactly going to be mega fit yet and fully up to speed. Definitely a guy that I think is going to contribute between now and then, but it made sense. You were always going to play him just based on the level that he's played at, that he could turn up. Unfortunately for him, I do think the game passed him by a wee bit. Nygren, as always, mate, instrumental at a key point with setting up a goal, but again, you lose a wee bit from him. And then, of course, there's the other sort of questions you've mentioned. Murray, we'll go on to him. Actually, not the worst. Like, I think it would be harsh to give the guy pelters.
No.
But again, it's another high-profile error, and that's the reality of the situation. It's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, we'll talk about the goal, but overall, not the worst performance that I've seen.
No, absolutely not. And then, of course, Yang does what he does. And the toss of the coin was always, who's going to play through the middle? Trinchara, Adamu, we're going to go back to Maeda, which we eventually do during the game, of course, and we'll talk about how we thought that one works out. Obviously, ultimately, it worked in terms of what happened leading to the penalty and the equaliser. But and then another strange one that we saw as well, Iheanacho. We see that he's supposedly down in Manchester, just cutting about training on a Sunday, rather than being the game. Another head scratcher, a really strange one. And again, these are the kind of things that as we move forward in the season, we've got to ask ourselves the big questions, right? Like, how do we do it? Particularly in that striker position, because we brought in all these guys. And the reality is, I think actually it might be Johnny Kenny is still, as an out-and-out striker at Celtic, is still the highest scorer that we've got. Yeah. So, I mean, what does that say about the options that we've got there, mate?
Again, the question that I think I've certainly asked the most over the time that I've been with you and Paddy is, who is actually in charge of our scouting and recruitment at the club? I think it's just basically somebody that's writing random name down on the back of a fag packet. He's obviously using an old version of Football Manager, with just going through the database and clicking through and seeing who's doing what. That for me is the biggest frustration. To even go back probably 3 transfer windows now, and you're really scratching your head and saying, who is kind of driving this really, to supposedly add some extra quality to the squad overall. And it's, if you can come up with an answer, then definitely throw that one in the comments, viewers.
I mean, and there's the point there, as we're saying. But listen, of course, we want to be positive here. We're going to be as positive as we possibly can. But for the time being, strap yourself in, because we're going to have to talk about that first half. By God, mate. Holy moly. Did I honestly see that one happening? The answer is no. Now, here's the one thing that got me, and let us know what you guys thought watching it yourselves, right? When you look at Rangers, and again, we were talking about comments and McCown saying, when we turn up and we're on our game, nobody can really live with us. And maybe he kind of got a wee bit of the last laugh on that one, because ultimately, we did. We turned up in that second half and Rangers couldn't live with it. But that first half, mate, I'll be honest with you, I never saw that coming. Now, I know that we've sat and we've joked here and we says, both are kind of shite. Whose shit smells a wee bit better at this moment in time, right? So we've kind of made light of it, but Rangers, and folks say, I don't watch Rangers. I watch all Rangers games if I can. I watch Hearts, I watch Motherwell, because I want to see what's around us and really get a gauge of what's going on.
Yeah.
And anytime I have watched Rangers out of Motherwell, us, and Hearts, I've thought if you remove us from the equation, they are playing some of the worst football out the remainder of the guys that are in contention, right? And that performance, I couldn't tell you when I seen Rangers play like that. Even against Hearts, I didn't think they looked like they had that level of control. And it just such a head scratcher. We were giving them free rein. They looked aggressive. They were pressing us. They were moving the ball about. They were making nice, wee sharp passes, carrying the ball, doing all the things that you'd expect for us, and nothing that you would expect for them because you haven't seen it. I mean, where did it just go wrong for you, mate, in terms of that first half? We mentioned the midfield getting a wee bit overran. Part of that, I would probably say, would be, Oxlade-Chamberlain looked off the pace. Once or twice he get the ball, and he looked, fairly comfortable. But by and large, it was just too pacey a game, passed him by. And then again, you add in the lack of work rate from Nygren, and mate, we had up with one midfield.
Yeah.
One in midfield.
Yeah. At half time, I described it from our performance as first gear football. It was, we weren't closing down anywhere near quick enough. We weren't getting out to Rangers the way they were pressing us. They seemed to have all the kind of not aggression. It wasn't a kind of physical game in the first half. There was a few tackles, but they seemed to be too much time on the ball to get their passes away into areas where, again, we spoke about, we are, regardless of who we play this season, we are always a bit weak on defending crosses coming into the box from the flanks. So, you could see that's where Rangers were trying to get the ball, get in, put our fullbacks under pressure. But I just felt overall we didn't have anywhere near the kind of grit and determination in the first half that we've seen, in recent weeks. Certainly against Stuttgart, you would have said, "Oh, that was a real positive, right from the word go performance." I mean, it took us. The first half, I don't think, as I say, we got out of first gear, and that was the most disappointing thing.
Yeah, I think you're mentioning about sort of putting pressure on the fullbacks. One thing that I really noticed was we all love Julian Araujo, absolute shithouse, and we've seen that at the end. In terms of his performance, it wasn't exactly one of his best. I was really surprised, but I can see why. Mikey Moore, I think he had him largely on toast. He was absolutely terrorising Araujo, and you could see what Rangers were doing. They knew that we had Murray in there on that right-hand side, so if they could just get past Julian Araujo, that was exposing the weakness, and they went to that well constantly. And it really did end up telling. Ultimately, it was partly down that right-hand side that led to the first goal. So let's talk about it. Let's just get it right out the way, right? The first goal, no doubt about it, as much as I hate to say it, it's a spectacular finish, right?
Yeah.
It's right up there with some of the best finishes that we've seen in the two now variations of this Glasgow derby, and even some other big derby goals, right? Folk will want to talk about, does it get the height? Does it get the gravitas? They say Rooney against City and all that. I don't care. It's a good finish, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's totally avoidable.
Yeah.
Now, all starts down that right-hand side, as we say, that they're constantly tapping into. They know that it's a wee bit rough down there. And it's our captain that causes some trouble with it. He probably should just shell it out, concede the corner at worst, maybe try and get it out for the a throw-in or whatever. Again, we don't want to concede a set piece for a corner or a long throw, but that's the option. And he plays this daft ball to Araujo, really puts him under the pressure. We lose it, and then what's annoying is how passive we are to allow them to shimmy the ball over into the centre and then ultimately out to Skov Olsen, and then we get the exact same problem there. I think it's Tierney and it's Scales. Scales is the most advanced of the two. Neither of them aggressively press him because he's not. It's not as if it's a brilliant turn of pace. They just stand off him. And it is a well hung up ball. And again, we can discuss if Arajo should be closer. You get to see a comical jump by, I think it's Yang, his head on thin air and he's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
It's a great finish. But from a Celtic perspective, defensively, mate, so passive. And I don't think the keeper's got a chance with it anyway. So let's take that out of the equation.
No, absolutely not. No, as you say, modern football, you've always got to play it out from the back. You know, we've put ourselves under so much pressure, even when Brendan was the manager, because it was exactly the same. You know, when teams have that high press, as you say, you're in your own corner. Just boot the ball clear. If it goes out or it goes up the park, it gives you a few seconds just to get your shape back. You know, Callum's get dragged in there with a row. They're too close together for me. That's the thing. But as you say, I think I counted 4 passes across the front of our box. Nobody is out quick to try and close any of those passes down. We're quite happy just to sit in the wee bubble. To let it go across in front was just probably to make sure we're blocking a shot more than anything. It keeps going. And as you say, the last one is the pass into the boy Wilson. And Liam comes out, you know, arms at his side. I think if you get something on that to give away a corner, but what you don't allow is the ball to get hung up and into the box, right? Yes, as you say, after that, you know, that's not just a goal of the season contender. That will be talked about for years and years and years, quite rightly so. Okay, but from our perspective, one, you've got to be more aggressive coming out your box to stop the pass going across the front, right from one side.
See that hand behind the back stuff? I hate it, mate.
Yeah,
just defend, take the risk, be aggressive, close them, and get in it.
As I say, you know, just get something on it that stops. You know, as I say, concede the corner, because then at least you can set yourself up to defend the corner. Okay, but to get out to him, and then get the ball gets past you, and that's it. You know, the finish, as I say, you know, I mean that's going to be, you know, on highlight clips for years and years and years and years. Quite rightly so. But preventable in terms of we lost possession, we weren't aggressive enough in coming out to try and, you know, stop them shimmying that ball across, and then eventually didn't stop the cross coming in. And as I say, we know that's our weak point. Once the ball comes back in, we don't defend these well, particularly this season.
No. It's really, really disappointing. It's the same things that happen all the time. I actually think when you look at the formation, we were talking about how Celtic should approach this one, and we think that we need to flood the midfield, try and get a bit of stranglehold on there, and even, dare I say it, 2 up front, because we always go for the one through the middle, and it just didn't seem to work. We opted for Adamu, and you know the options are so thin, right? Let's be honest here. Look at Chinchara. There's some positive stuff there, but by and large, you know, I said this before, and I'm still convinced by it at this moment in time. Do Celtic have this guy, this striker, who between now and the end of the season is going to suddenly go on this run where he's going to score 5, 6, 7, maybe more goals and really drag you out the mire? I really don't think we have. No. Look at Rangers. Folk don't like that. Look at Rangers. Their success was huge with the 2 through up front, right? Yeah. 2 up front really made it. You had Nadiri and you had Chermiti, and they were great at squeezing us. They were occupying either. One of them was just siding off with one of our back line, and the other was sort of straddling between the 2 and really limiting everything we could do. And it had so much success for them, allowed them to get almost like get the extra man when we were pinned back. Now, when we talk about the second half, and they foolishly, and I'm glad they did, sacrificed that and tried to plonk another midfielder in. They only went with 1 up, totally burst their ball. Couldn't they do it? That's something that we need to do, because I don't think we've got that guy. And listen, by and large, he's been muck. But there's that boy Chermiti. You know, he scores 2 against us last time, scores 2 against us yesterday, scores a couple against Hearts. Yeah. Now, ultimately, when you look at the results, Hearts and us, that's what the guys in January we needed to do.
Oh, yeah.
Scoring the big games, turn up, score the goals. And I don't know
yeah.
if we've necessarily got that, mate. So
No.
I'm fascinated when we look at the game midweek and then the game against Rangers in the Cup, how we go with it.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, you know, there's nothing there that fills you with any kind of confidence. Now, we talk about how important goal difference could be this season, you know, given that the teams are all very tight up there at the top, you know, still, yeah, you know, 10 games for us to go, 9 for the others. But, yeah, definitely, as you say, you're looking for somebody that is going to start putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, Negrin is our best bet at the moment. You know, that's fine. Gets himself into the right place, right time. But yeah, you've got to take a bit of the pressure off him. You've got to say, you know, of the guys who came in, you know, Iheanacho, as you say, I was very surprised he wasn't even on the bench on Sunday. Don't know why. If he's supposed to be injured, then, you know, fair enough. But, you know, the two guys who have come in have scored one each. Now, to be fair to Adamu in the first half, he got absolutely no service whatsoever. As I say, because we all across the park didn't play very, very well at all. There was one, I think, cross came in from Kieran, an early ball. Butler got to it quick, but he was, you know, he was there or thereabouts. He wasn't too far away from it, Adamu. But I think I saw a stat come up just right close to the end of the first half, and it said the least amount of touches by any player was Adamu. I think at that point he'd had 6 or 7 touches, and you know that was really you know his afternoon in a nutshell. If you're not going to give these guys service, then you can't expect them to do miracles. But yeah, as you say, it gives you food for thought moving forward.
I mean, what surprised me with that there was the one thing that I had singled out Adamu that I quite liked was you know, when we've seen a bit against Stuttgart, a good wee bit of pressing, an engine on him, could get himself around. Now, ultimately, we made that choice to go with Dyson and push him through the middle. We'll talk about, or at least what I think the tactical thoughts behind that is. I felt at that point, we realised that we needed to press them, pin them back, and keep them at half, and you were getting that push from Maeda. Why Adamu didn't try to do that role in the first half is completely beyond me. And ultimately, I'll show in a minute or two how that first half, how bad it actually was. Again, we all talk about stats, and stats don't tell you, but by God, these stats absolutely tell you the story of that first half. And then, sure as hell, you know, 1 becomes 2. Let's talk about that one. Again, it's Chermiti. I'm a wee bit mixed about this one. It's a ball to nothing. And again, I don't know. You probably put that ball across into a box 20 times, and Dane Murray probably puts it out where it needs to go about 18 times. Maybe, you know, maybe I'm being generous here saying that twice he makes an arse of it. But once again, as we've seen before, it's a big fresh air swipe. The ball goes by. Ayaro is out. He's a bit out of position because he's not expecting that ball to go through, is he?
No.
Then the question is, should he and should Sinisalo maybe do a wee bit better? Maybe that's a disservice. It is a decent wee knockground by Chermiti. He's quite cute and he gets it through, turns him. Arajo's going completely opposite way, flat-footed. There's no way he's spinning round, facing the wrong direction. Sinisalo, if I'm being a wee bit sort of maybe overly picky, I think if he closes it a bit better and anticipates that the only way that he's going to knock it is away him into that corner, he maybe has to go that way. Instead, he tries to spread and it goes through. And a bad day just got a hell of a lot worse. Where are you at with the second goal, mate? Has that been a bit unfair, or again, is it Celtic's self-penned problems?
Yeah, totally preventable. I'm going to take it back one, okay? So the ball into the box, as you say, Dane tries to take a swing at it. Why, I don't know. He obviously thinks, you know, he's not going to make like a header on it, do anything else with it. It's coming in at a low angle, so he tries to swipe at it. I think as soon as he makes the kind of fresh air swipe and it goes behind him. The one thing that disappointed me was that he knows he's made a mistake at that point. What he should have done is get himself back onto that line. Just, okay, he can see Arojo behind him, who's, kind of hopefully going to deal with the ball. But just as a precaution, I think if he had made sure, oh, right, I've made a bum of that, I'm going to get myself back onto the line just to give a bit of extra cover. Chermiti gets the touch on the ball. Because he's got longer legs than Arojo, he just sticks out a leg, and it's the length of the leg that he manages to get the contact on him. As you say, Arojo, because he's had to turn, he's a wee bit off balance, and he can't.
So you're thinking that he should be tucked in and on the line? Do you think he should be trying to get himself on the line or something?
I think Murray should have been busting a gut to get, but he's put the ball into an area where it's still live. If he swipes that ball and it goes over the bar or it goes out for a corner, fine. But he's put a ball into an area that it's still live, so he's still got to think, oh, there's a potential risk here. I'm going to get myself back onto that line. If Arojo clears it, nothing lost there. But because, as I say, Chermiti with a big long leg gets the touch on it, and at that point, Murray sees the danger again and goes, oh, but he's at that point it's lost. It's past Sinisalo. You can't really, again, he's that close to Chermiti. Chermiti gets a touch on it with the side of his foot. He's kind of cute. He's not going to try and power it because at that point he's that close. He probably hits Sinisalo. But he gets the wee cute touch on it to just get it past him. But I think, as I say, at that point, I would have been looking for Murray to be, busting a gut to get back onto that line to give his goalkeeper a bit extra cover behind him.
I mean, that's the thing. You're always going to be hypercritical of these things, but it's so frustrating because, again, we'll talk about the second half, is when you look at the two contrasting halves, you're like, how in hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And here's the thing as well. We'll just gloss over them. Comes two, could be three, could have been four.
Oh, could be.
You've got the Fernandez, the free header, again, defensively, ball in. Like, what's going to happen there. And that's probably, I'm putting that as a bad miss for him. There's the other one that comes over, and I think it might be Chermiti. The angle's a wee bit acute, but he taps it in, and he hits the outside of the post.
Yeah.
We're sitting there too, and at that point, it could have been, honestly, in my opinion at least, absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And on that, we were in the group chat and we were sitting there and talking, and I put out a post on X, and as usual with these things, folk will, how'd that work out for you? Back at the end. Here's what I put, and I'm going to stick by it. I want your thoughts on it. Mm-hmm. It's genuinely isn't any disrespect to Martin Neill and those guys, right? As far as I'm concerned, Martin Neill's an absolute legend and he can do no wrong, right? He'll be completely absolved from any blame in the event that this weren't to go our way. The guy has bailed us out and bailed him upstairs out twice, right? Shouldn't have happened that way. But what I said was, after 35 minutes, Celtic looked uncoached. That was my take. And I'll be honest with you, folk might think that's reactionary. I'm just reactionary to things and talking in the moment and commenting on as I see it panning out. Now, I ask anybody that gave the criticism of such a comment, what were your conversations with your pals, your family, if you were at the game, online, at 35 minutes?
Yeah.
Would you have disagreed with that sort of extreme viewpoint that Celtic looked all at sea without a clue, to the extent we're going, what exactly are we working on in training? That's where I'm at with it. And that's what I want to beg the question. We asked at the start, Stevie, did we get the lineup wrong? Now, my only one criticism, the changes that had to be made were made at halftime. Thank God we done it. Yeah. However, why didn't we just do it at 35 minutes? Because I get it, the idea, you don't want to take somebody off, you don't want to embarrass them and stuff. They were coming off at halftime anyway. So it wouldn't have came as a surprise. And it would have actually been made those brave decisions at halftime braver to just go, you know what, tear that up, that's no button, get him off, get these guys on, and let's start that fight back early. Because I just felt that we were riding our luck at the 35-minute point. I'm like, why are we insisting with this? Why are we insisting this? If anything, Rangers look like they're going to score one, maybe another two. So I think we get away with one by not making the changes earlier, mate.
Yeah. In regards to, putting that on at 35 minutes, you're reacting to what you're watching, as we all are. When you're putting that on in live time, as I say, I waited until half time before I put my comment on, and as I say, it was just a case of, I felt we were still in first gear. As I say, we weren't anywhere near the intensity that Rangers brought to the game. Obviously, being the home team, the early goal gets the crowd on their side, gets them, the heads up and the momentum, and the second, and as you say, they could have scored the third one. So you're absolutely right. As I say, you put that on at the time. Hindsight is great. It's going to come back, and you say, again, I guarantee there was nobody that was tweeting at half time to say, "Oh, this is going to finish 2-2."
No,
because there was nothing in our performance that would have warranted you saying, we can't be that bad, surely, for another 45 minutes. We could maybe sneak one, but it would really take some sort of monumental effort to come back and play the way we did. But that's the way it panned out, and that was so. That was the surprising thing. So don't be apologising for putting a comment on.
I'm not apologising. I got it. You've doubled down that, and I stick by it. We sit here, and obviously, we nasty podcasters who get accused of all sorts of stuff. But no, look, I just wanted to say, and I asked that, have a wee bit of honesty with yourself. What were you really thinking at half time? Because hindsight is great, and I think sometimes you've just got to call it as it is, as and when it is. And you know what? I'm glad it came back, and it absolutely done me and made me look a fool. But I still believe that first half, those type of halves, we need to win every game. Of course we do, right? Celtic can't afford to have halves like that in this run-in. It just simply cannot happen, mate. We cannot make these games harder for ourselves in this run-in. I'm not expecting us to be flawless first and second half, but there needs to be a middle ground. You can't have a Chernobyl. You can't have an absolute meltdown in the first half, because I'll use it as an example. See if that happens against Motherwell, they're a different beast. You probably, things don't change. They probably don't capitulate the way that Rangers do, despite them being in fourth and being a wee team, quote unquote.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the first meeting of the two teams at Ibrox, the 0-0 game. I said then that's probably. Never mind the Glasgow derby. That's probably the worst game of professional football that I have ever seen, because that really was just two teams that didn't want to lose the game. Now,
Danny Rose fighting over a comb, mate. That's what that was.
It was an absolutely. It was. I mean, at one point, I think. Was it Chris Sutton? It was either Chris Sutton or Neill Lennon when he said that Ox's 45-minute contribution, he says, he's that off the pace. It looks, I think he thought it was a testimonial. I think that was the term he used. And yet, it was just, there was one team in that first half that had the desire and the energy and the kind of wherewithal to say, right, we're going to come out. Obviously that absolutely flipped on its head second half, but I mean, if you look at the stats, as you say,
that's what I've got here, mate. I've brought it up. There we go. See for what it's worth. The top one's the first half, right? Yep. It shows you for XG was an expected goal, but just to picture it, one shot on target, no chance of scoring a goal, just non-happening, not on target. Look at the shots inside the box, look at the chances. None. Absolutely nothing going on. I mean, look at it. Touches opposite 20-5 for Rangers. The shots, the on target, the shots inside the box, we were getting swamped. But then, of course, talk about substitutions, mate, and we shall. Let's get in the second half. Turn it on its head. I mean, mate, it's flip reverse.
Yeah.
What a difference changes make. And by God, you've got to say, once again, excellent decision to make those bold decisions at half-time and just go, this isn't working. In the bin, tear it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to talk about Reo, I'm sure. If Paddy was here,
because he's straight in, mate.
You know,
Oxlade Chamberlain sacrifice for Hatate at half-time, and Adamu is sacked off for Tierney. Now run through the middle.
That was the strange one for me. Not as it turned out, obviously, but I would have thought being 2-0 down, and if I was going to swap a striker, I would have thought it would have been Adamu for Kvanchara. You know, somebody with a bit more physical presence, maybe somebody that's going to be able to hold the ball up a wee bit better in the opposition area. But hey, what do I know? Because, you know, as you say, you know, Martin got it absolutely right. You know, we talk about Reo, how he's been, you know, so inconsistent this season. We know he's got quality. He absolutely showed that in spades on Sunday. You know, even from, you know, his first shot that Butland had to get down and make the save, but you could see that he was kind of right in about it. And you know, it was absolutely, you know, a joy to watch. And I think that more than anything else, you know, Tierney on the wide area was doing, or certainly putting Sterling under a lot more pressure than Maeda did in the first 45 minutes. And, you know, the move for Maeda in, we started to press at that point. You know, he was running about, again, not doing, you know, terribly dangerous stuff and getting loads and loads of shots away, but he was putting their back line under a bit of pressure, which made them a bit nervy. A couple of times, I think Butland had a kick out that fell to one of our players. A couple of the defenders were playing passes out under pressure, and it was going straight to our players. So, you know, absolutely, you know, once again, you know, St. Martin, may he be forever blessed. You know, you've got to say, you know, those that doubted, did he get the starting lineup? I think you'll probably look at that and say, yes, I did. You know, no. But, you know, it's going to be a case of, yes, it's only hindsight that's told him that and how it was. But, you know, it certainly made up for that in the second half. And as I say, I would like a wee audio recording of what he said to the team in the dressing room.
Well, I mean, God knows what he did say to them, but I think, you know, the underlying point is stated obvious. This is simply not fucking good enough, right? Yeah. It's as basic as that. Makes the two substitutions at half-time. You've mentioned Kvanchara. I'll be honest, and I'll give a quick synopsis of what I thought there, and then obviously let us know your take on it. I think it really is quite telling that when we do need a goal, that we don't opt for Kvanchara, and he doesn't even go on the pitch at any point. I think that's probably pretty telling. Because had it been the cup game or had it been a European game and they bring him on, I could maybe see and go, do you know what? It is what it is. He's just taking this game as it comes. It's a league game. It's a league game. These are the ones that we need to. These are ultimately, all the league games are the only ones that really truly matter. Of course, you want to win the cup. Absolutely. But the league takes priority. So why he wasn't brought on at any stage, as I say, it's a wee bit telling for me. And I just get the feeling that very quickly, maybe they don't see much of the qualities that we need in them to hang their hat on them. Now, I'd said before, I think that bringing Maeda through the middle, yes, he didn't have a particularly great game. He get more involved. There's a couple of chances and involvements, of course, one leading the penalty. He could still do better, but the one thing I think that we needed to do was push them back.
Yeah.
And you were going to get that out of Maeda. I think if you bring on Kvanchara, I like what you're saying, the idea of there's a wee bit of physicality there, but as you know, the sun lounger, as I like to call him, that would have just been too easy for Rangers.
Yeah.
Just having him stand there like a big traffic cone, backing into two big monstrous defenders and falling over would have got us nowhere. We needed to take the game from him, which is why originally I had says if he goes between Adamu and Trinchara, I thought it would have been Adamu because we're not going to beat them through physicality. How can we beat them? We can push them, we can pressurise them, we can get them in the back foot, make them uncomfortable, passing across the back of their goalkeeper, and we can use a turn of speed to our advantage. That's ultimately what Martin Neill does. Brings on Hatate, and I'll be honest again, I have no shame in saying it. And everybody I was watching the game with, I was like sixes in the room, and we saw Hatate run. We kind of half joking went like, here we go. Can't I believe we're pinning our hopes on Hatate, have a game and he's not had one in ages. How wrong was that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And it was good. He got to see him get his foot in the ball. He looked calm, he looked composed. There's a couple of times where he isn't composed with the ball in a striking position, cut blind over the bar, and I think there's the one that Negrin takes off his foot. It's the wrong choice. That's not his problem. But he, thank God, we've talked about him being a moment's player. Well, he had that moment in that game, mate, and that half definitely changed him. And I think now, you look at it, you just got to play him against Rangers for the start. Hope that he can actually do it for the half rather than having to come on.
Yeah. So from when he came on, overall, there was a definite momentum. You know, one of the kind of criticisms that we've had of Reo over the course of this season is his either lack of forward passing or, you know, when he does get the ball and tries a pass, you know, sometimes they go pretty much astray. But, you know, Sunday was just one of these games where every pass he made was a forward pass. He was putting Rangers under pressure. He was getting himself into positions where, as I say, he had the shot, you know, that forced the save out of Butland, you know, and he was again, you know, getting into positions where he was bringing the wingers because of his passing. He was bringing the wingers more and more into play. You know, especially Tierney to that side and stuff. Involved in the lead up to KT's goal. You know, so that's the thing, as you say, we know he's got that in his locker. We're just been so disappointed this season that he hasn't done it as much as we know he can do. You know, when you watch him, I always talk about, I look at a player's body language, and it just seemed very, just, you know, you see him on the ball and he's, you know, but Sunday, you know, he definitely, you see when he picks the ball up out the net after scoring the penalty and he's running away and he's got a smile on his face and he's obviously blown out his cheeks because he's like that off. You know, I would have preferred if that had just went straight in. But, you know, yes, you know, you've got to give credit where it's due. He came on and probably more than anybody else turned that game for us in the second half.
And same as well, I think you look at it, let's talk about ourselves getting back into it. It's him and Tierney. Tierney just gets us a lot more forward. He's offering more direct action than Maeda was, but again, you're getting the Maeda press, you're getting the push, which sort of is opening up anyway. That in itself, you know, he's not doing a lot game-wise points, but he's pushing them back. That's what he needs. Is creating that space, and Tierney's coming on. Again, another guy that looks probably better coming on as an impact guy. You know, he's done that. Well, he got a game. Will he start on Sunday in the Cup? Who knows? You know, based on what we've seen there, I think there is the question. Does he just go, do you know what? Let's just go with the old side and tested. Let's go with putting Maeda through the middle. Let's try that press fairly on, and we'll see if we can score the goals for elsewhere. He might just do that. And as much as Maeda hasn't been on it as a centre forward for a long time, as I said, it's a flip of a coin. You know, Martin Neill could literally do what you do in the park. I'll turn my back and draw numbers and do numbers between Chinchara, Atamu and Maeda for who's going to lead the line. That's where we're at. No, it's great. It's great through. And then, of course, the first goal is Hatate. Again, stops in the edge of the box. I will be honest, see when he slowed down and the momentum was out and he started dawdling towards it, I'm like, we've missed the chance. But he's calm, picks a nice pass into Negrin. Negrin again, right place at the right time, makes himself available, hangs it up perfectly. And by the way, it's a goal that I centre forward be absolutely proud of. Tierney gets up high for the header, straight down into the ground. And before we know it, there we go. And what did we talk about as well? See when that ball hits the net, that crowd start to turn, mate.
Yeah.
And that was a difference maker in itself.
You know, that was the thing. You know, all the kind of pundits, you know, said that at the end of the game. Even, you know, a few minutes kind of prior to that, as I say, you could see that we were starting to get a wee grip in the game. We were starting to put them under a bit of pressure. We had the Reo shot. You know, we were more possession, more dangerous areas, pushing them back. As you say, if you can turn, once you start hearing the crowd, you know, become a wee bit restless, then you know, right, let's keep it going. Absolutely. You know, what surprised me was that Kieran was kind of largely unmarked in the area. You know, when you watch that ball come in, obviously the two Rangers central, they'll be thinking, I'm looking for who's the tallest guy in here. If this ball's coming in, I want some. But Kieran kind of just ghosts in. There's nobody really that close to him, and he does everything right. You know, it's header down off the slippy surface past Butland, and you know, you can see at that point, right? You know, that's it. One game, one goal. We'll still get plenty of time. We've got the momentum. We just need to keep the foot in the gas from here.
Yeah, it's a brilliant time to score. It is the old cliche. Before the hour mark, still plenty in it. We drag ourselves back in. Just want to say as well, thanks you to Stephen. There's donated 5 memberships to lovely people out there. So class from him, and you're very lucky if you're on the end of one of them. But yep, we press on. We start to get ourselves a wee bit more into it. Rangers, I reckon, make a stupid decision, and I'm glad they did it. And to, you know, have a wee shot back at Danny Rowe. I'm surprised he didn't try to win that game, mate. You know, he took off. And I mean by win it is and go on and score an extra goal rather than just hold on to a 2-1. So they sacrificed the one things I said that were working for them. The two up front where they could do the double press and pin us back a wee bit, and they decide to take off one of them and fire in Diamande. They try to staunch their way to it. They try to go for a wee bit of physicality and swap in the midfield. But see, at that point, it's gone. Is gone, because in the transitions, when they can't push us back, because they've only got the one guy up front that hasn't got the legs to spread himself across our back, we're able to get the ball out quicker into midfield, on the flanks, get ourselves down there. And the guys definitely, as I said, made the difference. Tierney gets more forward. There's a couple of chances we then introduced McCowan, and both of them are instrumental, and we probably should score before we do. There's the first one, Tierney, it's a brilliant ball into Maeda. It's the first two headers it has in the game. He probably should. It's a free header, mate. Pick either side of the goalkeeper and you're up. And then, of course, the second one, another brilliant threaded ball through to McCowan, the most left-footed player in the world. He tries to shimmy over. Bit of criticism there, folks saying take it on your right. I just think even when he gets it on his left, Butland's halfway down. He's just got to lift the ball. We could have been, mate. We could have been even, if not ahead, on the balance of probability. The chances we had in that second half.
Yeah, the Dyson header. I said again, much like KT's one. You know, if he gets, if he can manage to get the ball kind of heading down the way, that's going to skid off the wet surface. He gets a decent enough contact, but it's literally at a good height for Butland to make the save. You know, that's fine. That happens. The McCowan effort, yes, as you say, he takes that touch to get it onto his left, having got himself into a great position. You know, he's done great to get in there and being in so much space. But as you say, he's done that thinking, I've got the time to take that touch to get it onto my left foot. Butland knows that, and therefore knows he's going to put that, you know, back across me. You know, as you say, he kind of gets a cheeky wee chip, any sort of height in that, and it's in the back of the net. But, at that point, it was still, the momentum was with us, and we're thinking, right, come on, let's just keep it going, keep the chances, because what you didn't want to do is, as we've seen, time and time before, because we're pushing, we do something stupid at the back and we actually, concede a goal. But not to be. We kept going. And then what happened with the header in?
Well, that's it. We go and we change. The last change, the roll of the dice late on is, of course, we bring on Jamesy Forrest for Benjamin Negrin. Negrin's done his bit. He's been in the right place at the right time, set one up. We just need to push it. As I said, it's that point where we've just got to flood it. We've got to go for it, and we've got to try and make the most of it. Of course, we also bring on Sriracha as well. Tierney's done his bit. We're looking for a wee bit more energy, a wee bit more drive into the sort of backline. And I think all those guys do contribute it. And of course, it's a great sort of final closer.
As we know, Sriracha's got a shot on him. So, from something from outside the box from him, absolutely, you could see why that change was made as well. But yeah, let's talk about the goal.
Oh, let's talk. So we get, obviously, we've seen how many years now we've been seeing this for Forrest. Now he gets down the flank, we dip his shoulder, he hangs up a brilliant ball. This is the one time I am going to say this is where VAR comes in, actually done its job, right? Because the header, again, similar to what my did is with the first one, it is a wee bit straight at the goalkeeper, and it's a crap header. And you see his reaction, he doesn't actually know it's hit no hands. He's got his hands in his head and thinking, fuck me, I've done it again. Twice, and I've done it again.
And then, of course, Butland's chin.
We get it, and here we go, right? Now, I've heard a lot of commentary around about this, and I've got to laugh, right? I've got to laugh, right? Here's the picture, right? Now, what people are forgetting here is he's trying to jump for the ball. Where else can your arms go? Now, there's two things here as well. Look how high his foot is. Right? Why is that outstretched leg even there and all, right? Whilst we're on it. But he's jumping. There's no need for the arm to be out there. And let's not forget, it goes off the arm that deflects it up into the Coopham Butland. So you take that arm away, and it's under Butland, by the way, and it's in the net. And that is why it's a yellow card and a penalty. Yeah.
I think at the time, certainly, when you watched the move live, it happens that quickly that nobody would have said that's been a handball. It wasn't, I mean, to be fair, it was a very quick intervention by VAR. I mean, play hadn't really gone on for probably 10 seconds, and you could see that the referee's getting something in his ear straight away.
As Paddy says here, it should be a booking. Now, I know they talk about the double jeopardy, but I believe that's for the sending off. It's a goal-scoring opportunity. If that big stupid hand isn't there, it doesn't divert it on the goalkeeper. That's the fact here when you see how it pans out, mate.
If you go on, Paddy, there is, I think it's either a YouTube video or it's a wee slip, and it's actually Mark Clattenburg, the former referee, that talks about it, that says because the referee has seen it, and obviously gives the penalty, that the yellow is sufficient for, you're not going to get the penalty and the red card for denying a goal scoring opportunity, but that's from a professional referee's point of view. So that's fine. He's obviously more clued into the rules than I am, so that's fine. But the thing was, as when Beaton gets called over to the monitor.
Have you ever seen a man sweating as much in your puff looking at a video? It took an age, didn't it? It took an age.
It took an age, because we all know what's going to happen. How many times have you actually seen a referee go to the monitor? Now, two things here, right? So one, Beaton doesn't know that's happened, okay? So when talk about, should VAR get involved in this? Well, yes, because he's missed that. Mm-hmm. If Beaton had given any kind of decision and VAR said, oh no, you've missed that, Beaton's given a decision, therefore VAR would have come in and said, "Oh, that's a clear and obvious error." Okay, but beaten through a crowd of players or whatever, can't see. VAR comes in straight away. Yes, there's been a handball there which you have missed. So anybody that says, "Oh, what's VAR getting involved for?" So yes, he comes over. How many times has any referee, once they've gone to that monitor, how many referees have ever changed their mind?
I think I've only seen it twice, mate. I think I've only seen it twice.
I've made the decision on the park. I've seen what you're showing me, but I'm going to stick with my decision. That's where we were all sitting going, surely, he's been, and as long as, 5 minutes of, are you sure? Are you sure? Can you show me a different game? Can you show anything? Even if it's black and white, put something up there that I can say, oh no, that's not a handball. But it was inevitable. To be fair, given when you saw the kind of the replays from the different angles, I think there was one particular angle from behind the goal that made it very clear that and what I mean is the deflection on the ball off his hand and onto Butland's face. Mm-hmm. When you see it from the other side, it's not quite as clear, but that's why obviously they've got all the different angles. But yeah, once he went to the monitor, it would have been, really atrocious if he hadn't given that decision.
Yeah. And then, of course, we get to who's going to take it. At first, I thought the biggest shithouse in Ibrox, that is Julian Araujo, was going to take it. He was
he's standing with the ball
and scratting off folk and winding up. And I've got to admit, I wish that his performance matched his shithousery, but I'll still take it. But he getting the minds of a couple there. I kind of thought at that point, right, he's going to get into their mind. This sort of pantomime's going to mess things up. But no, Hatate steps up. Again, no going to lie, wasn't confident when I saw it was Hatate. I think it's a very poor penalty. Let's not kid ourselves on, right? It's a poor penalty.
Yeah.
Butland manages to save it twice, but he's just there and he bundles it home. And hey, do you know what? I don't care how the goals come. Yeah. It's more than we deserved in that game. They'll compare how we got that penalty. Blah, blah, blah. The reality is, with the chances, the balance of the shift, how the performance was first half, the second half. Celtic, you want to talk about, you won the first half, we won the second half. Celtic totally won the second half, and they should have won the game in the second half. Nobody, even the staunchest of Rangers supporters, can honestly sit there and say that after that game, that the draw was the bare minimum that it should have panned out. When you split those two games, you almost treat them as two individual games. Rangers in the first half, and then they had their Celtic second half, their equivalent that we did in the first. That's the way it is. Totally deserved. And I saw as well, we're very lucky because I think if Dyson touches it in, he's probably offside. So thank God that Hatate was there. But no, we walk away, mate. Two a piece. Yep. Obviously, there's a bit added time on it. It goes for nothing. There's not really many additional chances that either side can go and win it or grab it. But I think it all said a pretty fair result. It was definitely mustn't lose. Some people said it was definitely 100% must win. Yeah. But I would have taken a draw at the start, 100%, and I'm glad for it.
Yeah. Overall, the big winners of the weekend were Hearts, obviously, because it gets them 2 points further away from both of us. But again, with us getting the point, we're no worse off in terms of it's still in our hands to win.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Because bearing in mind who we've still got to play, we will have both Hearts and Rangers at Celtic Park after the split. Therefore, you're thinking, brilliant. Motherwell, absolutely. We've said a few times, Dom, that over the course of the last few weeks, Motherwell are actually playing the best football out of the top four.
Best football side,
as you say, they're afraid of no one. They're taking teams on and they're beating them comfortably. We had the conversation earlier. We talked about the strikers and who we brought in. You imagine the position we would have been in if we'd gone out and got Makanishwa The very first day that transfer window opened, Motherwell, there's £4 million. We want this boy because he's scoring for fun in our league. Where could we have been at this point in time if that was the bit of business that we'd done there?
I think that's again, we'll need to just depend on what we've got and get through. And, by one way or another, scrape ourselves over the line through, hot coals and broken glass. I'll take it any way it comes.
Yeah.
I think that there's no doubt about it. Listen, I'm at the stage where this season, there is a level of excitement in it, and I'm not against it. I like it. I genuinely do like a bit of competition. To say that the problem I've got is we can wind the clock back, sort of early 2000s and stuff, and it always was competitive, and I didn't have a problem with that. Because I didn't have a problem because the other teams happened to be good, but we were also good, and it was just a case of good squads going against each other. The competitive element of this has been penned by those upstairs, and the shortcomings. So we don't need to labour it. That's why I don't enjoy it quite so much. It's not because I'm entitled and I want to just barnstorm and absolutely do everybody every single time. I'm all for competition as long as it's not competition at the expense of yourself that you've created by design. But we'll need to get put through it. If we had signed a proper on-forum striker, even somebody on loan, I don't think we're in this position. But again, it is what it is. We've took a punt on 3 guys. Mufka, who's not even been seen. Adamu and Finchara, 3 guys all down their luck and hoping that they're able to strike it lucky and they're able to refine their form that benefits them, benefits us. And so far, it's not been the case. But we've still got many games to play. We still think we're well and truly into it. We look towards the game during the week, win that, leapfrog Rangers by a point, and then the games against each other. I genuinely think...
Don't do the hard work on Sunday, having got ourselves back into the game and then blow it, on Wednesday night. We need to go out and we need a comfortable performance. If we can win by a few goals, more the better. But again, the important thing is 3 points takes us above Rangers, keeps that momentum going, and then as I say, it's game by game by game as we get to the kind of towards the split.
The goal difference is going to be massive. Let's not kid ourselves on here. Plus 28 for Hearts, plus 26 for Rangers. Obviously, we can leapfrog them, but still possible that he can come into play. Ours is plus 21. Motherwell plus 29, mate. I mean, that's what we've got to think it. But no, do you know what? We move on. We take it. And, of course, Wednesday is another one. And, again, if you want to look for some severe optimism, there's plenty here. There's one for McLaughlin. It reminds us that a draw at Ibrox in 86, we then push on and pip Hearts of all teams, Love Street. So could we potentially be getting a wee bit of history echoing itself, another modern spin on that season? I've heard it said quite a lot of times, and do you know what? I'd take it. I'd absolutely love that. But do you think, again, silly question, nobody's truly out yet. It's amazing how the narrative changes from a Rangers perspective, because a lot of people out there saying that's him done now. They're out yet. Such is the gravity of the result.
I would love to say that. I think what will have hurt them most on Sunday is, again, the confidence of being able to go from 2-0 and really coasting at half time to concede the 2. And and as you say, really be lucky that they didn't concede a third to lose the game. It'll have dented their confidence more than it will have dented ours, because we dropped 2 points and we didn't perform well in the first half. I think that the confidence is there for us that we actually dragged ourselves back into that game. So I still don't say that mathematically. Any of the top 4 teams are out of this.
No.
I think there'll be points dropped. All of those top 4 will take points off each other at some point. I think there might be a few strange results elsewhere. Nobody expected Rangers to draw against Livingston. We were really. When we lost the game against Hibs because of the trusty red cards, we could have done without that. Fair enough. So I don't think there's anything that's you know, if we go on a run, or if any team goes on an unbeaten run, we win every game 1-0 between now and the end of the season, I'll more than take that. But you know, I still think there's twists and turns for all of the top 4 teams at the minute.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how it pans out as we go towards Wednesday's game. We'll come on, we'll do a wee proper look ahead towards that one, of course, cover that as it goes. And then before we know it, the weekend's upon us. A really busy week for Celtic, but a huge opportunity to grab a hop in this title race against Aberdeen. You know, a team that 1-0, they get defeated off Hearts at Tynecastle. That's a good result for them, despite the loss. You know, that just shows that they went for being, if this game was played at the time it was meant to be, Aberdeen were an absolute turmoil. I mean, they're not any great shakes at the moment, but things have slightly shown green shoots of improvement. You know, had nothing each away to Dundee United. Of course, they had a 3-2 defeat to Dundee, but again, Dundee are a team playing it, and of course, they had that 2-0 win in the Cup over Motherwell. So they've actually got a wee bit of mixed form, and it looks like a tougher game than it would have been a couple of weeks ago. But again, you've got to hope that what we've seen there at the weekend, dragging ourselves back into it, an opportunity to get ahead, maybe get some goals on the board and eat into that goal difference is exactly what we need. And we'll be around there the corner to cover that and talk about it. But before we finish, just what I say as well, we thank you to the Bold Channel 67, another one from Paul. Well, not necessarily just from him, but also from his viewers and subscribers, because he done a great video. And if you've not checked out, go and done it. He's Channel 67. It was the Celtic Fan Media Awards, and I'm proud to say that Celtic World Order were one of the winners, and we were nominated as Video of the Year for me and Paddy's wee whip round a Celtic Park, which from his subscribers got a healthy 34.7% of the votes. So if you did vote for Celtic World Order, then thank you very much, because that's nice to get something to smile about, is it not? And even somebody like me, who, as we all know, a week over was getting absolutely trashed, and there might still be people that are out there, and 19.5% of another one from Paul, Channel 67's fans or subscribers, or whatever you want to call them, 19.5% of those beautiful people voted for me to come in. Didn't win anything, but 4th in the right good time of the year. So there you go. There's still some folk out there that like me. Thank you very much to another one for Paul for supporting this channel as always. So it's a right good laugh. And if you've not checked out his channel before, go and check it out. I always say it's a sort of satirical take on it. It's kind of like a sketch show. Think like Brass Eye, but Celtic. It's right good. He's a top quality guy, and it's a right good video.
It's a very, very funny video to watch.
He's a funny guy, and we'll need to get him back on here at some point as well. But as I say, more importantly, thank you to all his subscribers as well, because he's got a lot more than us, and it's nice to see that whatever we're doing is getting appreciated elsewhere as well. So thank you very much to every single one of you, as always, for sitting and watching us. We'll be back through the week to talk about that. Maybe Paddy will get up out his scratcher after night shift and do one of these to sample the Aberdeen game. I know he's been in the comments tonight. I'm at the wind up with you, brother. But thanks for joining us. Cheers to you, Stephen, as always, for coming out. It's nice that we got to speak about something a bit more positive into it, because I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Oh my God, I was dreading this video at halftime.
It's never over till Fat Boyd sings.
Yes, that's it. So thank you very much. Take care of yourselves as always. Hit subscribe, caution on, give us a thumbs up, like, share, there you go, like, comment, subscribe. The Bold 420 knows the score. Thank you very much. So till the next time, take care of yourselves, and as always, hail, hail. See you later.